How do police officers deal with stress?
The wrong way or the right way? So, stress, lots of officers will tell you, first off, stress, a lot of it comes from inside an agency because they can be critiqued so much and examined so much living underneath a magnifier. But lots of them now, the younger generations are getting it better. But they used to do alcohol, unfortunately, some drugs, some the symptoms rose up, bubbled up from the stresses that they were going through from too many calls of suicides, too many calls of people hurt, too many calls of great violence. And that's why they're doing that. But it could come up even in a domestic violence situation at home, their own home. But the newer guys are doing real good as far as watching their nutrition, trying to get their sleep, exercise, working off that extra, that bubbling up that's in there, that aggravation that's there. And I think the newer generations are better at talking. The old generations might be more about just keep it to yourself. The newer ones are better about having these opportunities to express how they feel about something, because we're human.
Do police officers do therapy?
Yes. The problem with it is this: they can have something offered by their agency, but they don't trust that their agency isn't going to receive that information. And now, like say Illinois, they've changed a few things, and they've actually opened up a facility. Because here's what the problem is: if you're in a mental health facility for extended care, it gets reported. Well, then that affects their firearms card in the state of Illinois. And so now can they carry a gun? And now are they a liability? People are going to say, well, you had them on the street and they're having these issues. So it's a whole network of problems to where the reality is we just need to care about the person. Every time there's a traumatic event, we need to do a debrief. We need to give them an opportunity to get in the group, and now they're looking at passing some laws that those are even reportable to follow after for cases. And that's just, to me, that's just crazy. You have to have...
Do the officers ever get desensitized to seeing that kind of stuff? Is that dangerous?
To a point. I saw a lot of stuff, and since I retired, I'll put it this way, my empathy bone has come back. I've always cared, but I've looked at some stuff that it just wasn't pretty, but I've had a wall. All the autopsies, if I was doing something, I didn't go to autopsies just for going to autopsies. When we had a child death, people wanted to go experience an autopsy. Well, that wasn't the one. Only the necessary there would be there. But so you do, but you have to keep a wall. But there have been some occasions that I know I've told you about them over the years about got through my wall, and that's where you've got to have a coping system. With me, it's faith. I think God's real, and we've got to realize that we are creatures, spiritual creatures, and we're asking people wearing that uniform to do things that most of society will never see, and then to do it at repetition, and expect them to not break a little bit. That's not reasonable.
They're expected to be machines.
Correct.
Which they're not.
Yep, correct. They're not machines.